Hi, everybody. I'm Elliot Brecht with Team Cheeky, and today I'm joined with Amanda, and we wanted to discuss with this Team Cheeky panel a little bit more about the importance of generating those referrals and some of the things that really surprised us the most once we started doing our initial transitions. Because you're told everywhere that it's in who you know, and this is how you progress basically in your academic and industry career, but there's some of those things that you really are just going to be surprised about within industry and just how important those referrals really are. Amanda's got some really great examples through her career trajectory that just showcase this really well. Amanda, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit more about some of the stories of your referrals that you've had.
Yeah, thanks, Elliot. So I guess my experience may be a little unusual in some ways because I transitioned from academia to freelance. And so that world is a little bit different, but I would say that one thing that I had read about in Cheeky, but thought it would never happen to me, was that my client was basically through a second connection that I had. And the thing about it was that the shared connection in this case was somebody who didn't have a PhD and didn't even have an educational field background similar to what I had. It was just somebody that I had met and was friendly towards. And so basically what happened is this person, my first client, reached out to me and said, hey, we have these connections in common. These people that I know are really good people. And I see you are a science writer and I'm looking for one for my nonprofit that I work with. Do you think we could chat? And that's how I got my first client, and then that's how I've gotten a number of contacts with clients and opportunities to work. And another thing that is interesting, it's another thing that I've seen talked about in the private group and in some of the Cheeky materials, is that sometimes with a referral, and it definitely depends a lot on the role in the company, but sometimes just word of mouth is enough to get you the job, and you can entirely bypass the rest of the application process. You don't have to submit a resume. You don't have to go through an interview. It's just the word of mouth can carry so much power in some instances that alone is enough to get you the job.
No, so that's very true.
Yeah. So I would definitely encourage you, invest in your network. Don't write anybody off just because they don't have a PhD or don't share your background, because in companies there's a lot more opportunity to interact with people in different departments, generally speaking, and so those people do have power to help you get a position.
No, that's very true, because it's one of the things that we always sort of falter, because you'll go to like a conference or networking event and you're going to a group which you're basically surrounded by your peers, and that's not necessarily, because these are the people you're competing with, and so you want to go and realize that sometimes connecting with those people who are in a different department or have outside interests, they're going to ones who are going to then connect you to that other person who will then potentially hire you. And that's sort of one of the things that I'd found in some of my experience was sort of similar in that it's not necessarily someone who, it was somebody in getting my referrals or realizing actually I started needing them more so is connecting with the different people who were not in the same department, but then realizing I can give you to into that department. I know the hiring manager and that hiring manager in that group, because I know that they're needing somebody, because I was getting referral to other people, not to somebody going, oh, I need someone to hire, and then taking in my resume. It was like them taking it over to somebody else. So it's always one of those things that you want to try and think about how those connections can actually foster you to getting to other people. You then have to go through and realize you have to make it an easy ask for them to do that. You have to showcase that you are, a good person, that you treated them, you have a solid background, and you do that by, setting up and making your good LinkedIn and your good resume, and, having these things on hand. But then you talk to these people who are then going to refer you to that secondary person, because that's who's going to give you the actual job. And that's how you go through. And you don't want to go through and have just a network of your peers. You need to go through and diversify it out, because not only are you going to potentially be, getting that referral of other people, but you're going to be working with these types of people within your career, because you're going to go through and, like you said, you're going to be working, cross departmentally, different groups, different areas. And so you need to foster this, not just in that initial, jump and transition, but it's going to continue on like afterwards. And that's one of the things that we sort of get locked into and forget, like in academia, because you're only really networking with the other people who are doing similar things as you, because you're working together in conjunction with people to, like, basically further your research, or going to conferences and talking to other people who have a similar interest, doing the same thing you're doing. You're not going over and necessarily connecting with these people who are in outside areas. And that's sort of one of the things that, like, was most surprising for me as well, is going through and going, like, connecting to people in other departments, in other groups, in other areas, going through and being like, oh, okay, so you can then bypass, the other people. So I'm not, just one fish in a giant pool that are all, all vying for this one person's attention. You're getting somebody in an outside sort of vetted source that says, no, go over and, Elliot's great, Amanda's amazing, and then handing it to the hiring manager, instead of them going through and having to be like, I've got this pool of people who are all, all skilled, all great, all trying to, vie for my attention. So this is one of those things that you really need to, shift. Nobody is not worth connecting with in that sense, and you have to go through and move it from just that connection to the actual network, and make sure, you've discussed with them, and, treating them like a person, and going through and making it easy for them to try and give you that, that transition over. And so we have lots of scripts within, our documentation to help you sort of figure out how to connect with people, how to actually take it from that connection to actual, networking, all the different areas you can go through. If you go to phdsgethired.com, we have a lot more information on, how to do this. A lot of our flagship program for getting PhDs hired, the Cheeky Scientists Association, and just want to make it sure everybody remembers and leaves thinking, remember that your value as a PhD, and keep thinking and acting like an industry professional, not just in that academic mindset. Bye, everybody. Thanks, Amanda.